My name is Katlyn. My daughter Faye was stillborn at 36 weeks, and she was born on November 7th, 2019. So I wanted to talk about this is, how I view the world before my baby died, and, how I am and how I view the world after my baby died. So when I was in the hospital after giving birth to Faye, just remember saying out loud that I felt like I died, but they forgot to bury me. Which is it's kind of dark, but I think this has turned out to be true kind of metaphorically because there was myself before the loss, and that part of myself was, left behind when I left the hospital. And it's kind of like you feel like your world has just stopped spinning. I mean, it's like being frozen in time and the world just keeps going on around you, but you're just, frozen. Um, it's really changed, who I am, and what the world means to me. Like, for example, I guess in some ways I definitely view the world a little bit more negatively, and in some ways now, especially when it comes to baby announcements and some of the language around having babies that our society has thinks is acceptable. Before Faye, I never gave some of these things much thought. But now I really hate questions like, is this your first? Do you have kids? How many kids do you have? Or any comment about like, oh, are you going to try for a girl or are you going to try for a boy? Because I realize I may never have another daughter. Like, she very well could be my only daughter that I never got to raise. And we never know what someone has been through. And some of these seemingly innocent things, can cause a lot of damage and distress to someone if you don't know them very well. So it's definitely given me more thought on, these types of questions and if it's okay to be asking them. Baby announcements are still really hard for me, even 2 years later. And even after the birth of my son, I had a son after, and I am not healed, even though I have a baby at home. Like, I think sometimes people think like, oh, you have another baby now, you're healed. And that's not true. In some ways, I think having, another baby after has kind of stirred up some of that grief too, because I see so much of her in him and just all these milestones that he's reaching and, like missing out with her, but just being so happy with him, and with like the baby announcements, like I want to feel happy for other people. um, but I feel like, I am like afraid, and every time someone has a baby, I like kind of like breathe a sigh of relief because they really are such a blessing. And I would say like with a big thing that's changed with me is kind of like religion, spirituality. I was never really very religious before, but I definitely struggle with it more now. I am not one that has found comfort in like, thinking that she's, with Jesus and all her friends in heaven. Although that would be great, I really wish that I could, find comfort in that. But I just feel like I'm the one that gave myself strength to get through this. So I'm taking all the credit there. But I definitely think that I've become more spiritual, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I can see and feel Faye with me all of the time. So one example is that every day, well, not every day, but a lot of days, I just happen to randomly look at a clock and it'll be 11:07, which November 7th is her birthday. It can be anywhere. It can be like my watch, my thermostat has a clock on it, my work computer, my car, anywhere. I see it all the time. And I'm just like, she's saying hi to me. And, another kind of weird thing is that she was born in room 416, and that's my son's birthday. And I, really feel like she was with us, watching over us the day that my son was born. I mean, it's a long story. I could do a whole other podcast on that. But basically, we weren't scheduled to have him that day. And, the doctors saw something that warranted delivering him. So I just really feel like she was there with us. And kind of like on the flip side too of the more like positive is that I really see so much beauty in things that I probably never took the time to notice, before. Being outside was very healing for me after losing Faye. And, I did a lot of hiking by myself with my dog. I made her flower garden, which, that bringing so much life. Watching the flowers bloom and the butterflies and, bees buzzing and birds and hummingbirds, especially. I love the hummingbirds that come. So it's just so beautiful. And, like in the summer, I see those vivid pink sunsets. And I would just think of her every time I see them. I think, like I said, in my birth story, that the slow falling, fluffy snow makes me think of her because it did that, the day that we found out she died. And also the next day on her birthday, it did that in the morning. So I really see her and feel her in everything that's beautiful. And then I guess just kind of like the last thing is I definitely feel more empathetic and a deep kind of like a deeper calling to help other people. I mean, especially those going like through loss, like in her memory. I haven't really figured out what that looks like yet, but I think like this is the first step because, if sharing my story can help one family, then it's worth it. I mean, hearing other people's stories in those early days of my grief was what helped me get through it, because I wasn't necessarily ready to like share my story with the world yet. But just knowing that I wasn't alone really helped. So, yeah, those are some of the things that has kind of changed me through this whole process.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Thank you.